My name is John and I do wood carving. It all started when I was still at school. In the woodworking class we were asked if we wanted to do a little bit of carving. So the first thing I ever did was a Disney plaque which had lots of characters, which I carved out as just a plate. I joined a wood carving club. One of the things I carved with them was in fact the snake, and I did research it quite a lot and make sure that it was going to be an adder of some form, and rather than have it just as an ordinary snake model, I thought I'd make it into a walking stick, so the snake's head became the handle or the top of the stick itself. But in order to make it look more realistic, I actually carved leaves around it as well. A lot of people are not very keen on it because they say the snake looks too realistic. The stick's very handy actually, although it's an ornamental stick. It's not meant as a everyday stick, and I wouldn't most probably take it out with me. Some of the chaps in the carving club sort of carve animals and birds and things like that. And when I'd finished one of the other carvings I'd been doing, I decided, oh, well, I'll go for a bird. And I decided I liked the idea of the Kingfisher, partly because it's most probably one of our most colourful birds in this country. But it's also a very small bird, but it has a very, very long beak. And I painted it because I thought, well, just a wooden Kingfisher wouldn't look the same. So I did it all in its coloured feathers and everything else, and it made it look more realistic. If I decide to paint one of my models, I always tend to use acrylics. Acrylics are good because you can paint, like even if you paint on a canvas or on a board, acrylics will paint on anything, and they paint very well on wood. And the nice thing about them is you can build it up without waiting for it to dry for ages like oil paints. So I always blend the colours as I need them, and then I just paint it all in acrylic paint. As I'm used to using them, it's been quite a help actually with a lot of the modelling I do. As everybody knows who knows me are aware that I have been always interested in aeroplanes. And in most cases in the past I've always constructed plastic models. But on this occasion I thought, no, I'm gonna carve a wooden Spitfire. So I had it in a sort of scale of about 150. So it was easier size to work on. And again, I know a lot about the Spitfire, so I've got a lot of reference material. Drew it all up, measured it, got the wood together, and started to carve the Spitfire. Took a long time because it's quite an intricate thing to do, but eventually I was quite pleased with it. It's looking quite good. I've restyled it because it was a Mark 1 and I've tried to restyle it into a Mark 9. You're quite often getting asked by people if you'll carve things for them. I tend actually not to do it very often for the simple reason is they take so long to make, and if you kept on giving them away or selling them, you've got no records of anything you've done. But with reference, I suppose, to family members, I thought, well, you know, I'm quite happy to do carvings for them occasionally. And my grandson, Jack, wanted a stick. And when I asked him what subject he wanted me to carve, he said a chimpanzee, which I thought was quite interesting. But again, I thought, well, that's what he'd want, and it's ideal because you can get your hand on it without any problem if he used it one day as a stick. Originally, I did the mouth without anything in it, but it seemed as though it needed something new. So I put some teeth in the chimp's mouth in the end. And they've obviously made it look again more realistic. I've missed one tooth out where he's obviously been in a battle somewhere. It was about, I suppose, 2 inches in depth, and I eventually finished it, and then I decided to colour it a bit so it looked a bit more like a chimp. One of the latest carvings I've done, which I did mostly for my own interests, is a humpback whale. Again, I actually got the idea from a book of carvings, and generally dimensional carvings are harder to do than maybe just say a flat frieze. You have to draw it up and you have to get all the profiles done, make sure that they're done properly. In the case of the whale, you've got obviously the top view, side view and tail view and so on. And in order to get that started, I did this one about 15 inches long to start with. I had to draw them out on the wood, the top profile, the side profile and so on. And then I had to choose the easiest profile that I can use the bandsaw on, and use a very thin blade, especially if you're going around curves. And I, as I said, use the bandsaw to cut out the profile, but then in order to do this, the next part of that profile, you have to do the side section, and especially when you've got a tail like that's going up at an angle so it looks lively, you've got a lot of bends and turns in it, and that gives you a basic shape, a very basic shape of your subject matter. And then after that it's all down to hand carving. It's very difficult nowadays to get woods. Most wood merchants nowadays don't store hardwoods because they're very expensive to get. A lot of hardwoods come, as you most probably appreciate, from abroad. I decided to use a wood which has got a lovely grain, but it's American, it comes from American wood, and it's called tulip wood. And you can't easily get tulip wood in this country. With all carving, there is a period where you've got to research your project. In order to get it to look right, you've got to know how you're going to approach it, where you've got to start, what sort of chisel you use to do it, whether you're actually carving it so that the grain always runs the full length of the model. Because especially in the case of the whale and things like that, if you did the grain going from side to side, the chances are that they will snap off easily at some stage in the future. So you always do the grain to the length of the model that you're doing. I tend to have a good range of chisels nowadays. The ones I'm using at the moment is a Swiss make called Feel, probably one of the best chisels there is on the market nowadays. I've got a full range of their chisels, and I've also got some very small hand chisels for delicate sections of the carving. You've got to make sure your chisels are always nice and sharp. The humpback whales have lines running through their bodies that run through here. I don't quite know what they do, but so I've got to put those in. Plus they have these little nodules that they have in the nose and the mouth area, and I'll show you an example on one of the sketches I put together. There's the lines that run through the front of the body work, but look, they have, these are all little nodules, they little lumps that stick out of its nose. I understand, I think that they're supposed to be very sensitive and they pick up information in the sea, so you've got them all round the front there and over the top and down the sides. So I've got those to do, this to put in, and obviously put the pectoral fins in, and then what I do normally with this, with most woods, is that I brush it with hot water, and that makes the wood expand slightly, and then when it dries off, when you rub it over again with different sandpapers, it brings the surface up very, very smooth. You notice on the humpback whale as well, they have these humps on their tail. I don't know what those are for. I'll have to find out that. And obviously they've got them again on here. There's a hump which they're always known for, hence the humpback whale. And yeah, so when I've finished it and sanded it all down completely and then got it over here, I've got to make some sort of structure to display it. I decided on a perspex which I remoulded and so on, so it looks a bit like ice, so that the whale is mounted on it and looks like it's jumping over the ice, because humpback whales tend to go up to the North Pole and down south, especially when they're in the breeding season. So I thought the ice would obviously be a nice aspect of the whole whale model. If you look at the model itself, you'll see that it's very realistic, and again, a lot of people like it, so I think I was reasonably successful there.